this is really a privilege for me to have a conversation with Aji, Amjum, and Adwait, whose works I have been really admiring for years, literally, and I'm just being very, very, very honest. That I remember when I came to Delhi, Adwait already was working as a curator, and then I've been seeing his exhibitions and the other projects he was engaged with, and Aji's paintings as well. I've been kind of really looking at how, as an artist, he has been engaging with it. Amjum is a very special and dear friend of me, and then I know his practice from now like quite few years. So it's really again an honor for me to have a conversation with him and part of this panel discussion where, part of his solo exhibition as well. To briefly talk about today's panel discussion, we will be talking about different facets through which this exhibition also have realized from both the curatorial and artistic end. And we'll kind of try to unfold areas through which we can see different contexts and personal histories to navigate new trajectories which kind of added to the practice of Amjum. So in the first section of our panel discussion, we will be talking among ourselves, which most probably will take around kind of 40 to 45 minutes, and then we will take few questions if we have from the audiences. To begin with, I would like to ask curator and the artists that, because the title of the exhibition also is quite specific, abstract as well in many ways, and everyone is really, really, really curious about that, how you both have arrived to the title. And I guess that's something which is extremely important at this moment, I feel, to kind of start with. So if you, both of you, if you can kind of share your thoughts that how you have conceived it together.
So the title of the exhibition, Ra, it operates at two levels. One is phonetic, in the sense that we are invoking a sound, the R sound. And then at the second level, it operates as a picture or a visual. So it operates as a pictorial level as well, in the sense that it makes a certain shape of a curve. And if you are going through the exhibition, you will see this shape recur through multiple works in various ways, in various motifs, and then at various levels within the works. Starting from the very basic sort of stroke. So for instance, even in the embroidered patches, behind us, you would see that the embroidered patches are sort of cut out in the shape of this R, which is a Malayali alphabet, which makes that sound. And then of course, it also functions on a conceptual register, because the way the title was arrived at was sort of in understanding and at the crossroads of all of these different threads being tied together. I remember having a conversation with Amjum as I was taking notes for the exhibition, and then Amjum was describing the different influences on his practice, and one of them, of course, was that of the Fauves, who were the Western Impressionists, who were known for the very, very wild lines, which were often curvilinear. And that Fauve curve was echoing a former influence that Amjum had while he was studying at the madrasa, and he was practicing khatati or calligraphy. And again, he was like rehearsing, making these curvilinear lines. So this kind of like curved motion was very, very intrinsic to his practice, and is very, very intrinsic to it. So that was there, and then conceptually we were also speaking about other subjects within the works. For instance, the Kabristan, where often graves are represented in the form of this which becomes like a little mound on the earth, or it features as a sickle moon, which again marks a particular passage in Amjum's life. So basically, throughout this exhibition, you see this sign or this sound recurring in various ways and on various registers. And I'll let Amjum elaborate further on Ra and how it features within the languages that he references.
The title rod not me in a different manner. I started my language study through Arabic from madrasa as a part of a religious study. And when I started uh, studying the alphabets, it's a little hard to understand. Why? Because it's in Kufic Arabic calligraphy. There is lines and dots. So later on, it managed into a different level, aesthetically, little bit more beautiful and curvy kind of thing happened. So in religious school, teachers are used to uh, teach little bit more comfortable with that curvy lines of alphabets. So I'm carrying that idea in my mind when I'm just thinking about today. It's part of that. And in later on when I was in fine arts student, it's that visual and the curvy line influenced me a lot in a different manner. In as you mentioned, the Fauvist drawings I like, especially the Matisse's drawings and all. No, I try to practice in that way. After titling that the title Ra, I thought it will be more connected after that. After titling, no, it's an when you are drawing Arabic alphabet Ra is like this and Malayalam is like this. So it's a circle kind of thing. Form is happened when we are in a conversation that time. So that's the point we stuck, and we decide to make this title uh, as a raw. So it contains maybe a lot of as you mentioned, the kabristans and dooms and all. No, so through visuals also it's a little bit more visible, that form. No, that's the idea of a title Ra, actually, Sibdas.
Um, I,
And when I just missed one point
yeah.
was when I started painting. No, when I started painting, that actions goes to fill that colors on that patch. It's like this only. I'm just so it's little bit more through that only. It's I just feel the colors and all. So it more close to me in that way also. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Also, I would like to kind of extend a question in relation to the title of the exhibition, and it's to you, Amjum, that if you could take us through your practice and how you have started your artistic journey, maybe briefly, if you can talk about that as well.
In childhood onwards, I'm very much interested in paintings, and I have in hobby classes, weekends. And I have a good technical skill in watercolor, doing watercolors since my childhood onwards. So that continuation happened in my bachelor studies. I decided to go to the art college. um, when I'm going to art college, I have different kinds of skill, like in watercolor skill and calligraphy, doing calligraphy skills and all. So it's a little bit more easy to understand when we are looking and starting to read and looking masters' works, obviously. So um, it's when I decided to become an artist, this all carry in different manner, So I started to making an acrylic paintings, oil paintings, and all, as a part of I work masters try to recreate the masters paintings as a part of bachelor's and all. So now I moved to after bachelor's there is a 4 5 years gap for my masters. So through that I go through different works for my survival. My aunt was a tailor, so I worked as a wedding dress designer. So on that at that time also I am just carrying my paintings and drawing process continuously to last decade. So that's the thing. I enter in different kinds of mediums after that. Yeah.
I also would like to ask Aji, since you are also from Kerala, and what is very fascinating in after listening to Amjum's practice and how complex and layered it is in terms of the mobilizations he had in his practice, both geographically, also in terms of disciplinary kind of choices he has made in his practice. Uh, as and both of you are coming from Kerala, but also coming from two different ends of Kerala. And there is a certain sense of this kind of when we kind of see artists are working, this sense of regionality especially, and this idea of vernacular also kind of is quite predominant in Amjum's practice. But also it's quite complex in its nature because of, I feel it's because of the mobilization he has had in his practice and his own artistic journey as well. I just want to kind of hear from you that how do you see this aspect of regionality and this notion of vernacular in relation to Amjum's practice, and how do you read that?
Thank you for coming. Can you hear me? Ah. Anjum studied in College of Finance, where I also did my graduation long back. Actually, how many years? Maybe 10, 20 years back. But now this College of Finance, Trivandrum College of Finance, has a kind of attitude towards drawing, uh, observing the in nature and drawing inspiration from that. So it was for a long time. It is a tradition there, and Anjum also a part of Anjum also studied there, so he became a part of that. But Kerala is a long state. I mean, it's a north part is, the southeast part lies in the bottom of India, and there are many cultural differences in the community. North part has different attitudes, and the central part it gradually comes down. When we come to the southwest part, it's more close to Tamil Nadu. We have more Dravidian culture. Thank you. Dravidian influences, Dravidian Tamil influences. But when we come to the College of Fine Arts, we are together always thinking about making a new kind of art, which involves all kind of these different aspects of Kerala community, and also we think about on a pan-Indian basis, and at the same time we were also aware of what is internationally happening in the art scene. And so we are all part of that way of thinking. Uh, that's what I want to talk about. Something more.
I can extend the question a bit because I also want to kind of ask from the perspective of, since you also come from a certain generation of painters, and you have been predominantly working with paintings in your own practice as well, and Amjum comes from a very different generation of painters, and the painterly understandings are also much different and very different, right? I also want to kind of, if we can talk how do you read this painterliness in Amjum's practice as well? And how do you kind of, from your own perspective, what painting is for you? And in general also, that how do you see, as a discipline, as a practice, how painting and painterliness also has evolved? And how do you read that in Amjum's practice? Yeah, something which I also think if you can talk.
Painting is a sort of medium or a way of uh, searching your own self, actually, to identify, to understand, to specify what you are. And it always what you are is actually connected to your near landscapes, your language, your community. So the activity of painting, is actually helping you to observe your own nature, your own surroundings. Anjum also does that. Anjum has its own. Now he is coming from the north part of, so you can see. For example, Theyyam predominantly, the two of his works are Theyyam figures are appeared, and that is particularly from his native area land.
Would you talk, I mean, a bit more about that? How do you see this kind of application of different materials in developing a certain sense of painterliness, which Amjum also does in his work? That how do you see that?
Medium always evokes different kind of, like oil painting has its own historical, background, and it always, carry its history with you. If you want to have a break, and if you want to uh, to go into another realm, uh, then your medium also helps. Like Anjum is using these beads, and that evokes another sort of realm, which is not really uh, the colors are different, with this, intensity of the colors are different. The way of distance or the surface is treated is different way, or surface react different way. So it helps you to find out new areas of thinking, or understanding the existence. So that way, new kind of mediums are liberating from older thoughts, and so so in when we were studying, we were not, we were making drawings with charcoal or with more traditional mediums, and oil painting or watercolor, and then using a new medium always liberates you to try out new areas. I think Anjum is successful in that.
Yeah. So I want to ask Amjum, extending the question and the aspects Aji also has illuminated, that how, since you kind of trained as a painter also from your school, that in your works, that how do you see this painterliness And how do you articulate this painterliness in your own work? If you could talk a bit about that as well.
Usually, actually, as you mentioned that, in the case of painterliness, when you start painting, there is another possibility, painterly possibility is there, So, when I start to make oil painting, I am carrying the whole masters in the past, doing the different kinds of things, I'm carrying that also, and I'm making that whole understanding and all. After that only, I just decided to go. What's going to happen there? No, that's an idea of a painting, and there is a lot of other possibilities as there. I'm just this is my only thought. It's so in all mediums I'm using different kinds of mediums, but the surface is always a painterly kind of surface, though in painting there is a possibility of different kinds of things. There is an accident happen, there is a plant thing also there. That's the magic of a painting, so the whole masters is always mentioned that, so that's a little bit, they are a little bit easiest way they are telling, but it's not that kind of way easy. If you are looking at a tree, you can easily make maybe a tree, but the actual sense of a tree or the presence of a tree is little bit different with that, so that idea in my mind, why? Because of these masters and all, great masters and all. No, I admire that kind of things always, and I'm carrying always that kind of things. So that's the actual possibility of a painting. I don't. I believe there is. There are people don't take to finish in next 1,000 years. Will definitely people will paint. No, that's a possibility of a painting. In the case of the other mediums, also have possibility. That's why you are looking in this show. No, but at the same time, the whole sense of what I gain in painting is trying to apply in that medium also. That's my understanding. No, that's a little bit deep for me to understand myself, wash out myself to making a picture making. No, so painterly, as a painter, as a practitioner, I'm gain all those things in last 1 decade what I'm doing. That's the intent session of my hand or the skill or in different manner. That's the idea of a painterliness for me, actually.
That's beautiful. Adwait, I really also would like to ask from the question of painterliness. In your essay also you have talked about this idea of ornamentation in relation to Amjum's practice. And when we hear this sense of painterliness in contrast to the idea of ornamentation, I'm really kind of I'm very curious that how you articulate this sense, the idea of ornamentation in the case of Amjum's practice. If you could talk about that a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Ornamentation plays a very crucial role in Amjum's practice. On the surface, it would be easy to dismiss the works as decorative. And of course, decorative in the modern idiom is largely understood as a pejorative. It's a negative term. But I think the way ornamentation has been claimed in Amjum's works has an agential role to play. So with ornamentation, I think what Amjum tries to achieve is a transformation or a denaturation of reality. Because there are two contrasting strains, strains within Amjum's works, where on the one hand, Amjum is holding silence and the everyday or mundane, within his work. So if you look at, for instance, the paintings and the embroideries, the scenes that Amjum is depicting are everyday scenes from his reality in Kannur, right? And on the other hand, the medium of the works is this quite glamorous and what would come across as materialistic and quite ornamental and well adorned embroidery and beads. So in some sense, there is a tension between the ornamental and the everyday that he's representing. But what that ornamentation does is basically prime the canvases or the surfaces of his works for a surreal emergence, for a magic realist presentation. I think that is, it's absolutely crucial to see ornamentation that way within his works and how it molecularizes reality. And I think it's also how the artist is observing reality. Because these scenes, which are often repetitive in nature, you will see through the different frames here, certain sort of scenes and sceneries repeat, right? Or there are similar sort of sites which recur throughout this show. And they're studied from different angles, from different perspectives, and different media. What that's doing is trying to mine these sites for nuance. So if I had like a different way of putting it, it's also common to Amjum's practice to sit at a dargah for long hours and just meditate on a particular detail. And often it is an ornamental detail because you would have like a Persian carpet or some kind of like ornamentation on the ceiling. And then the artist would just like focus on that. And by focusing on this ornamentation within the architecture that he's inhabiting, he's able to dive into his surrounding. He's able to immerse into his surrounding and come back with something that would not meet the eye, something that could be of the nature of an epiphany or a revelation. So I think ornamentation is embedded in the very way in which Amjum perceives the reality, and it is a medium through which he enters the reality or enters the surrounding or enters the everyday around him. This is how I would view ornamentation in Amjum's practice.
We have had so many conversations, Amjum, regarding the choices of the material and also the politics of the material you use in making the works, in the production of the artworks. So, and then specifically you have used beads and Ari technique in a lot of works as part of this exhibition. If you could talk a bit about the choices through which you have arrived there in realizing the production of the artworks for this exhibition, as well as I also would like to understand from you that how do you see or understand this idea of labor and reputation in the production of the artworks?
My family is also a very part of very skilled persons. My mother is very good in embroidery. My aunt was a tailor and she's a wedding dress designer. After graduation, I just moved to my hometown back and start for my searching for my survival. And at that time, I mentioned my aunt was making a wedding dress design, and it's a little bit costly for there, to make that kind of wedding dresses. So I have got a project to make very cost-effective wedding dress for me. So I got an idea how to stick the beads. How is that? I'm just a dialogue. It's all come from that actually. So I start to make a very cost-effective wedding dress. On that 2 year, I make 2 3 wedding dress. You can only use over one day. You can't wash. so, so that's the first time I'm just checking the beads on cloth. Actually, that's the story. After that session only, I just moved to my masters. In there is a very big, large library. So in that period, I read a lot of books about the Seljuk carpets and all. No, Seljuk carpet is a little bit more complex. It is. Then you can see the different kinds of detail in a single square feet. So that's fascinated me a lot. Actually, it's the first core of my idea came here. Why? So I am also searching for that kind of. I am also dealing with that kind of designs. I'm carrying all those ideas, stories, visuals since my childhood. Even he mentioned in dargahs we are using some kind of a spiritual practices also going in my life, and at that time, so that kind of design oriented visuals is carrying me in that time to produce that kind of visuals in my artworks, so I started to doing that kind of visuals in paintings actually. But at that moment I just realized, how it works. I just try for experiment. That's the first piece I've done in my masters, a very small piece. So after finishing that work only, I got more possibility. Look at again and again and again. It has a lot of possibility to explore. That's the idea of material changed me in that way. At the same time, I'm practicing the painting also. Why? Because in here I know that process is going to help me. That's an inner thing. It's here. You can see, yeah, that process is going to convert in some sort of manner in this medium. So that's the first idea of using the beads and all. No. After all, I read in for using beads how to use. There are a lot of possibility. That's a ready-made beads. You can't mix the colors like a painting. So I am little bit get into deep how to make visuals uh, out of it. No. That's the idea of making or using the beads and all.
Yeah. Um, I have two more questions adding to that, the politics of beads and all. But before I go there, I also would like to ask Aji, since he also has been working with the idea of landscape and landscape as an integral part of picture making process as a painter. In Amjum's practice also one sees this idea of landscape, these wide landscapes as well, as something which is very central to his practice as well, right? But and you have a practice to through which you respond to landscape very differently. For example, when you talk about your practice, you talk about this sense of non-placeless, the placelessness or the non-place of the place, which you paint, and then you refer to the place or you refer to the landscape, and the transcendence to the transcendence of the landscape through the place you kind of see at. But in Amjum's case, he also talks about very specific landscapes in his kind of
Yes.
works as well, right? Like if we kind of
Even
see,
when he paint a pond, he know which pond it is and
right,
where it
right,
is.
right, right.
Yeah, all kind of, yeah.
So could you talk a bit about maybe your understanding to how you see the landscape and maybe
For
how you
me,
read?
making landscape is basically, I found it's a way for me to solve my painterly issues. How to paint, what color, how colors work, and this landscape works as a kind of area for me to solve these issues. Landscape itself, as like it's most of the time it is my own Kerala landscape or landscapes I see. But I inspire from that and I study them and then I make my own landscapes. It is not really not existing anywhere. It's kind of by drawing inspiration from the nature. I I make new ones, new things, which is an answer for my own issues or painterly or artistic problems. I try to solve through that. So landscapes works as that way, and also some other aspects also there like the love towards nature, that kind of normal, everybody has that. And I also have that to paint them, inspire me to paint them. Uh, but just now I was watching this exhibition, then I was always thinking like Anjum's paintings was two kinds of paint, work size. One is with a oil painting, with using paint, and another one is with beads. So I was like looking around and this was in my mind why how it is going. Then I came to see the painting called Storyteller, which is exhibited there. And then I found this is the painting, maybe you can see it. See it, the man with the green. And now this man is painted like with paint, and his surroundings are made with made with beads. So it seems like the entire landscape or the surrounding is his own inner vision. So it is another thing. Then I started thinking about other paintings which hanging here is it's a reflection of another kind of inner vision. That is how I could approach it. Something more you can prompt me to. No, but I found it is very interesting. Yeah, please.
In the case, when I'm just remembering, first time I met Aji at 2012 as a presentation he did in my college. At that time, it's I remember, you're talking about the landscape, the Japanese landscape and all, that widerness and all, and we have talked about more about that, deep depth of the Hokusai's painting and all, it as a student it inspired me a lot actually, and even Aji's work is also, that kind of what they are thinking, the masters thinking, that connection is also in the case of a wider size, wider vision, you can see very wider vision is little bit more, otherwise if you have that kind of clarity you can see the entire world like that. Maybe, yeah, I thought it's like that, you can see the if you are looking very zoom in kind of vision, you can see that kind of things, you can see that also. But for my case, that inspiration came from like that only. I just remember just now, so it's very connected for me, and that inspires me a lot actually. I'm just talking that, that the wider vision is always be like that. You can see the whole clouds as the same way the mountains are like. It's some kind of visionary. And there are a lot of Japanese masters and all. They did like that. So that's an idea of mine.
I think some of your painting also has a direct connection with the painting for Hiroshige. That painting is now that tree is very much from Hiroshige, inspired from Hiroshige's painting. So that way it is not exactly his own native, but he brings everything into his native place, I think. Even Hiroshima, when I am looking at that painting, it is again his own native landscape, but then he had brought Hiroshima there. That's that is something very.
That's why I'm just always in the middle. I am always trying to mention. I always trying to mention that I'm always carrying all those. Right now, I'm just going to the next day. I'll carry this day also. So that's the part of an understanding as a visual artist, I believe. No, that carries makes you to solve to the next work what you gain, what they have a problem, and that the problem solving is also happening. So that carriness is little bit important for me. That's why I'm just remember that day's conversation about Japanese paintings. You know, it's like that.
In addition to the rendering question, the rendering of this site specificity and how you kind of develop the works, I would like to go back to the ornamentation, and you briefly talked about the genre of magic realism in relation to Amjum's practice as well. And I'm also curious to know from you, Adwait, that how you see this act of storytelling in relation to the magic realist approach and how you see that in Amjum's case as well.
So the genre of magic realism is different from pure fantasy or from expressions that are purely magical, in that in magic realism, the emphasis or the accent is on realism. Realism is what's being mobilized or what's being enabled through import of magical elements. The magical elements in this genre are in the service of realism. The reason that a lot of the proponents and a lot of the practitioners within the genre, and names like Milan Kundera, Salman Rushdie, Gabriel Garcia Marquez come to mind. What they were in their own way trying to accomplish through this genre, or the problem that they were trying to solve, was that the language that was available to them at the time was somehow inadequate to the reality around them that they were trying to represent. The reality felt too stark or too overbearing and overwhelming to be captured in the available articulations. And I think for that reason, those exponents of magical realism borrowed from the language of magic, the language of fantasy literature, to highlight certain aspects of reality which cannot be captured through ordinary language or through the ordinary in language. And I think in a similar way, we see that in Amjum's storytelling, the landscapes are very much real places, unlike Aji's, because in Aji's, the landscapes actually don't exist. These are fictional or imaginary entirely. Whereas in Amjum's case, the landscapes do exist. These are real places around Kannur that the artist regularly frequents. And yet, if you would go there, perhaps you wouldn't find them in the same way. The representations of those places are through the artist's eye. And there are at the same time these imagined or fictional or fantastical insertions within these places, within these landscapes. So for example, in a lot of the works you will see these kind of like nuclear blasts just happening at the horizon, or you will see a witchy Sabbath going on in a sacred grove, or there are these fantastical elements of like a UFO descending upon a landscape, for instance. Um so what that does is bring to light certain aspects of reality or certain emotions that the artist is feeling when he is enveloped by these places. So this is, I think, how the use of magic within magic realism and the use of magic or fantastical within Amjum's practice align.
Before we take few questions, I just would like to also conclude with the question to Amjum as well. But actually, there is one more question in my head, but we can maybe take if have time. But Amjum, yeah, I mean, after doing this fantastic solo exhibition, for which you have worked so hard for like few years now, that what are the recent kind of inquiries or concerns or subjects you are really working on at this moment?
It's if you are painting and keeping home, it's not finished actually. It's a big part of as a practitioner. That's a big part to making this clarity or a statement to the people. Yeah, I do believe that art is for human beings. I'm just observing how people are watching my work, how it reads, what time they are spending in front of my work. That's then other in other manner it's very satisfactory. At the end, one side. At the other end, I am just trying to solve the problem again. It's through I just walk alone again and again through my works. So I am just identifying which kind of things I missed in my work and all. No, so that's the only way I can go through to the next. That's I mentioned. That's the only way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Great, great. Do we have any questions? We can take few questions also.
I have a question. What is the story behind the Baba painting? Did I miss it? Did you cover it before I came in, maybe? You didn't cover it? Okay. So there was this painting here, because I'm asking because that is one of the works of yours I have acquired. So I wanted to know what is the background of that theme, that Babaji, which you use. Is that the right name, terminology I've given it, or
storyteller.
Sufi?
Storyteller.
Okay. Yes, yes.
Actually, I'm very happy to.
Because I actually I had acquired a painting like this of yours a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So now I have to know the story now that you're here.
Actually, I mentioned that work here. No, that's the first work I made with beads. Actually,
Okay,
it's with your hand. No, actually,
which I
I'm
have.
very
Okay.
happy to that.
Nice.
And no, can I? Since childhood onwards, I have a very much interested to visit that kind of places. With my mom. My mom has that kind of sophisticated practice inside that. No, and so I am just carrying till now. I am carrying those kind of visuals in my works. Why? Because we are talking about the repetition and all. For me, it's not a repetition. It's again and again we can look into the deepness. No, so that's why I'm just mentioned that word problem solving. You can see that in this work what kind of problem I have in that work. No, and that's happened actually. So I'm just trying to make that clarity again and again and again. It's just like a polishing kind of thing is happening. No, so that's why I'm just carrying it. So at the same time I have a possibility to do again I'm just making one in here the light is missing. So I felt there is one light is there. I missed that. So when light comes, there is a light is also there. I want to solve the light session is also there in technically. At the same time, I am moved into some depth of that landscape also. and landscape is changing in the coming works, so it's kind of a problem solving, it's for me it's very important as a practitioner, to understand myself as like that. That's why that repetition is also happening.
Adwait, I see his work and I see in a totally different way. Do you think he is more like a person or artist who is more into climate change and things like that?
I don't directly see Amjum's practice engaging with ecology, or at least not in that kind of overt manner. I don't think that is the mainstay of his practice. I think his concerns are somewhat different. Based
But
on
as
my
far as
own.
I understand it, because this is more like if we talk of tree, lakes, UFO, all these things are to do with technology, climate change, ecology, science, nature.
I think you're not wrong in that the motifs within the works, they do lend themselves to a science fictional language. And that is why I was earlier invoking the idea of magic realism. I personally don't think that a magic realism within his work is speaking directly to aspects of ecology or the ecological urgencies that require our attention. I personally feel it serves another purpose. That being said, ecology does enter his works in indirect ways, and to me the most active way in which it might be presenced is, for instance, in the works at the back where you have Amjum painting a sacred grove and then the happenings within the sacred grove as imagined by him, and then he is very carefully and selectively populating them with figures who have a certain history. And the figures are uh, indigenous deities. And indigenous deities who have a very special reputation. So one of the figures in this painting, for instance, is a deity called Potam Devam, and the deity is ritually enacted and performed by a performer. And this particular deity has a very mischievous and a very sort of brash kind of a character. But it's worth highlighting the fact that this deity became a deity much like a lot of these indigenous deities because they were people within the community in the past who were subsequently deified for their uh, for their social cause and for sort of posing the challenge to some kind of uh, I don't know, like maybe a confrontation within a caste kind of a context. So Potam, for instance, is known for his very interesting conversations and dialogue and challenging of Sri Shankaracharya, who is the founder of Advaita Vedanta, and Potam is known to be a person from a lower caste community, that of Chandals, and he confronted Shankaracharya on his way to one of the lakes or something like that. And he starts questioning him about caste and what is it within the humans intrinsically that justifies the existence of caste or these kind of discrimination. And then eventually Shankaracharya is able to recognize that this is some higher form of intelligence, or as the myth goes, this is Shiva who comes disguised as a Chandal who is questioning him and his faith and all of that. So this is the deification that happens subsequently, but a lot of these thayams or ritualistic dances can be read by us today as scholars of history, as archives of subaltern resistance. So in painting sacred groves and in painting these particular figures from indigenous cultures, I think there is indexing of the ecological aspects, because we know that indigenous practitioners and people who belong to indigenous communities are doing a way better job of protecting ecology and being in tune with ecology and of sustainable living than us as city dwellers, as proponents of modernity are, with all our environmentalism, which is sort of like technologically enabled, and with all our talk of techno fixes and sort of like large scale engineering works to manage a disaster, with all of that science at our disposal, and yet somehow we're not able to achieve the efficiency and levels of sustainability and sophistication in ecological management as practitioners of these community can. So in representing them, in depicting them, in painting them, I think there might be a indirect nod to these kind of ecological urgencies, and probably also a homage to people who sort of are in some ways the real-time environmental heroes, you know, or the unsung environmental heroes. This is how I would see ecology being addressed in its practice.
And the possibility of artwork is like that maybe sometime. No, it's your being which kind of area you are covering in your whole life is to reflect as someone's works maybe in sometimes. No, I do believe in that. No, if you are be a good political being, you can add politics on my work. You can be a very romantic person, you can see the romanticizing things in there. No, I also experiencing all those essence in my life, no. So that's it, your question is also answer. Answer is it's in there, no, in that sense, in that as a practitioner's view, no. That's also a possibility of art.